Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
One thing that we're big on telling newer trainers is if you need more time with a dog, ask for it.
Yeah.
Because it's not only is it risky, but it's unfair to try to rush a dog through a program if they're just not having it.
And I have no problem telling clients, like, I have a standard and a goal.
Right.
And I have no problem comping the next 5 days for me to get there.
I do the same sort of thing.
What I mean?
I do that a lot, but I don't advertise it.
No,
right.
of course. But that's on a person-to-person basis, especially if I like that client. I'm just like,
right. It's something to keep in your back pocket as a possibility. Right. Absolutely.
Like, absolutely. I remember, I've extended dogs just because I wanted to teach them a proper finish. I'm just like, he was so close. Just give me another whatever, and we polish it off. That's so awesome.
Totally. So I started doing board and trains where they get dropped off me. Tyler Mundo inspired this. They get dropped off to me Monday morning, and then on Friday afternoon, early evening, I do a session with them, and then they go home over the weekend.
Yep.
And it allows me to truly have a Sunday off and like not feel bad that a board and train is bored that day on my day off. Yeah. But the last dog I had, the resource guarder, which I already had a good relationship with him. I was like, I'm keeping him over the weekend. He's not ready to be sent home to you. It's going to like totally regress him. So I'll do that every once in a while. I think the biggest thing is like just reminding yourself, if a dog has been practicing this behavior in its house for a long time, you're not going to change it in 3 weeks. You're not even going to get close. No. When I explain to clients, I'm like, if you're not calling your dog an F student, but let's say your dog is an F student, I'm going to get them to a D or C. I'm not getting them to an A. Like, I'm going to give you the tools so that you can how to learn. Slowly get them to an A.
Right. That's how I try to explain things to people all the time is what's the difference between an F student and an A student? It's not like there is no one massive thing. It's just this one maybe works harder. This one's maybe a little more focused. And if they were less focused, they would be an F student. And if the F student was more focused, they'd be an A student. That is the fundamental difference. So my job is to teach this dog. Like, here's how I kind of break things down for clients is my job is to teach your dog the core kind of values and principles that are going to lead to XYZ. But there's a flip side of that. You as the owner, I need to teach you how to cultivate these things in the dog to, and so on and so on. And then we kind of get into the whole, like Brent and I were talking about, how you can go about explaining the training process, because sometimes newer trainers focus too much on tools. Right. So as far as the training process goes, I was talking to my assistant trainer the other day about a certain dog that we had. She actually just went home this morning and she looked really good. And she was working place commands, place patterning, and she was doing it with food, with other puppies. Like, it was like a group, like 3-4 puppies all running on it. And it looks cool. And she loves to work with puppies, and it was awesome on video and all that good stuff. And the dogs learned the patterning well. They like the bed, but she's really barky and she's really impatient and impulsive and this and that. And I was talking to her about working like calm place patterning. Do it nice and slow. Let's keep the food to a minimum. Don't lure her onto the bed. If you're going to use food, reward after the fact when you release the dog, but don't use it as the thing that gets her there. Be nice and slow with it. One dog, not the others. And the way that I explained it to her, you ever explain something to someone and then it just clicks for you because you said it in a different way? And I was like, you have to understand, the place command is one command, and yet you can drill it about 7 or 8 different ways. And even though it's the same command, you're teaching different things. So if I'm working a dog with like high drive food work, place break, I'm building not only the command itself, the place, I'm also building the release of break. I'm also building the work ethic of like, man, if I work hard, I get rewards. And I'm also, building all these different things. And then I turn around and slow the dog down. All right, now we're leash, now we're e-collar, now we're this, now we're that. I'm going to calmly put you in place as I walk away for 30 feet, recall you, put you in the other bed, Now I'm building patience. Now I'm building silence. Now I'm building relaxation. Now I'm building focus. Now, and I was explaining that to her. It's the same command, but it's not, so be willing to kind of play the game depending on what the dog needs.
Yeah.
You were saying something about like, my job is to take you from an F student to like a D or C student. And what's funny is like, I remember as a kid, like I probably had like a B average just throughout my whole academic career. But I fucking got A's in the classes that I gave a shit about. You know? And so in essence, it's like as trainers is like, we want to get our dogs to give a shit about doing the things that we want so that they can be A students. Right. And it may necessarily, you know, yes, maybe for example, like the bed command may not be that dog's forte, but you know what? They sure do love a fucking sit stay.
Well, because it's not about the place command. It's just about teaching the dog to focus, and then teaching the owner how to teach the dog to focus, how to continue to, you know.
So you said something. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, the biggest example I always give, like I had all virtual sessions today, which worked out beautifully because it was cold in LA, cold for LA and cloudy.
Yeah, right.
So
it was
be at home all day.
We had to wear a jacket.
I'm in my hoodie. It was cold here too.
But the example I always give is like when a board and train comes in, I'm not giving it free affection. Doesn't matter how cute it is. One, to be honest, it's just I'm really grateful for Popcorn, my Chihuahua, who is like such a good fucking dog, like as happy-go-lucky middle of the pack as they come. He's so good. He's kind of made me want to like love on dogs and cuddle dogs and stuff, but it's not like my biggest thing. And I think when I entered the Caesar world and started dog training, I saw how like messed up dogs got from so much affection and so much worrying about them that it made me even like pull away more. So I am grateful for Popcorn because it makes me help understand clients need to be touching their dogs all the time. But anyway, when I always tell my clients, when board train comes in, I'm not giving them free affection. It doesn't matter how cute they aren't. But the moment that I'm doing like lawn line leash work and they're packed in next to me and they look up and I like turn around and they notice that I turned around without any leash. What a good boy. Oh, what a good boy. And their eyes light up. Oh, that's what you want from me? Okay. I can do that for you all day, lady. And I make that affection. Oh, you know, like especially if the moment I work them off of a dog, if I have dog reactivity and they see a dog and they choose to follow me, what a good boy. Like they light up. But why the fuck would they do that for me if I'm giving them free affection all day long?
Right.
Yeah. How are you going to leverage it? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest part of board and trains is like having the owners reset, seeing how well the dog is doing, what the dog is actually capable of, which like I work with a lot of, I think most women are doing the training in the house. Like if it's like, if there's couples, unless it's like a single guy who got a dog, I do think it's most women clients.
Yeah. I would say my advanced off leash courses are most like 99% women.
Yeah, like they're doing the training in the house, I find. And they're the ones that are most committed to it. I have no explanation except for like mama bear. Like I find that my women clients will change way quicker for the dog than the men clients will. The men want the cuddles on the couch. The men want all that. And my only explanation is
men also have a false sense of control.
Yes. My only explanation this is that that women are like mama bears and they'll change for the kid, like they'll change for the dog. But also, I don't know, maybe that like, because this is changing now, guys aren't always allowed to be super affectionate to everything. The dog is really where they get out this affectionate side. I don't know what it is.
I think it's because men are dogs, so it's easier.
We just vibe like that.
We just vibe.
It's funny because I tell people that all the time here. Like now, as you say it, I notice it, but that's not what I tell people is dad is always the softie, but dad will 100%. Always deny it, you know? So it's always like the mom's going to be like, I'm going to miss her 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And the dad's like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know, I'll care, whatever. And then he's the one texting me like, so how's my dog?
I'm calling for my wife, obviously.
And you're like, what, for 30 days it can't be on the couch? Because I have like a whole go home plan. And they're like, oh, this is so hard. But I will say all the guy, like my good guy clients who I really adore will be like, you know, I'll be doing the catch up with them. And they're like, I thought it was gonna be so hard. I thought that they weren't gonna love me anymore. I thought our relationship was gonna change. He's like, but our relationship has changed in such a cooler way now. You know, like they see it, but it's always hardest to get men on the same page.
It really is. And if it's a woman who calls me, like as opposed to the husband or the boyfriend or whatever, then they like often will tell me the same thing. Like, oh God, I feel like I've been telling him this for maybe from the trainer, he'll listen, you know, and I have to come in and tell him like, yeah, you need to stop doing this, this, and this. And then they have that moment where they look at him like, you know, and she's like, I told you. But that is funny as you mentioned it. I'm like, damn, that does tend to be true.
Yeah, I want to talk about, so we talked about a little bit with Larry Crone and you know, Larry Crone echoed a couple of the points that you're making right now, where he was talking about, you know, like I really try and develop things in the house during a board and train that is going to be transferable to that client, which I think is so important. And one other subject matter that came up in that conversation, we were just talking about, you know, how important, the difference between behavior work and obedience work. And I think this is kind of where things fall apart. Like there's a big separation, right? And so I remember even being, a Keeler-based trainer, even though I came from a Caesar background, again, when you become dogmatic about dog training, I remember being like, well, all these pack walkers with their groups of dogs doing all the feely energy, but even though this is stuff I knew how to do too, right? And so I think it's important for us on the Dog Trainers podcast, for maybe a younger dog trainer who doesn't necessarily understand how all of these, maybe these little behavioral nuances, how we raise them, the manners, the boundaries, the control of space, privilege, resources, all of those things, how in the grand scheme of things, it helps the obedience. I always say behavior is the glue that makes obedience stick together, So let's talk about it, I guess. Like, in your words, like, what would you say the biggest, because you come from that Caesar background,
dog psychology first, obedience second. I mean, and this is how, this is the way I think about it. Dog psychology is how dogs naturally process the world, right? We're thinking nose, eyes, ears. When dogs are born, they're born blind and deaf. They can only smell. 14 days later, their eyes and their nose. That's how they naturally process. Then we think about obedience and how us, especially in the United States, learn to greet dogs. Hi, oh my God, nose in the face, just so unnecessary. We really do ears, we screech, and then eyes, and then nose. And even obedience is a sound. And so the thing is that I like to do reactivity. I think most people are getting called for reactivity anyway. Even if it's just like leash excitement and maybe not full interactivity, whatever it is. You police dogs and German Shepherds are an amazing example of this. You can have a super obedient dog that has no chill at all. And that Moose, my German Shepherd, if I'm just doing obedience, he looks like the best dog in the world, Right. I personally don't really care that much about obedience. Not in my own dogs. I want to make sure their recall is amazing. I want to make sure if I say stay, they stay, but I don't really need to. I can do spatial pressure and sit. But I think everything else is so amazing. I'm not putting it down. I think obedience is super important. But for my personal pack, I don't care. But I care that they know how to be calm in every single situation. Because if they're calm, they'll be able to hear me when I say sit. But you can have a dog, if you only focus on obedience and not how that dog naturally communicates, or understanding how to better communicate with them, how another dog would, what comes natural to them. And you're just teaching them this foreign language. This word means body position, this word. You can tell the dog to sit all they want. When their trigger goes by, they're going to lose their shit because they're not calm.
Right. Of course.
You can tell that dog sit all they want. They're gonna lose it. Not always, but I think obedience is super valuable. That's just my own personal thing of I don't care if my dogs can roll over or whatever it is.
Right. And as the joke goes, is we know plenty of dogs that can sit, roll over, and give paw that are fucking assholes.
Oh yeah.
And that's how every conversation starts. It's
I just want my dog to. I want my. They're amazing.
They're amazing.
Yesterday.
In fact, I find that to be the case more often than not. Is if somebody has an aggressive dog, chances are they've already been looking right. They've been trying something. So it's the dog will sit, lay down, and stay, and everything, and then try to bite me.
But he's still an asshole.
Right.
Yeah, but do you know how to ask for calm? Have you?
Right.
Do you even know how to be calm as a human being? Because that's some things that you see. I think so the way I always kind of explain it is just obedience is academics. It's like reading and writing. You learn English, and then behavior stuff is the manners. It's the please and thank yous. It's the ask for permission. It's the it's the manners. That's the character shaping stuff. And I feel like that always gets overlooked, and it's so crazy how as we mentioned, so many dogs know obedience, but they're just not sticking with the owners. I've met people like my grandmother. She didn't do obedience training, but she would rescue every single dog that jumped into her yard. And she had 9 dogs do whatever the hell she wanted. And she wasn't saying sit, she wasn't saying down, but she controlled space before I knew what it was called. She controlled privileges off the bed, off the couch. No, she would like control him because she didn't like to clean the hair, right? So she had these natural demands of things, and she had rituals on how she would give resources and play and food and all that stuff. And I remember being a little kid. So my grandmother lived right next door to us. So my dad bought the house next door for my grandma. And she, it was funny because she was obviously our grandma, but she's the only one that had cable because she only speaks Spanish. So we didn't have cable growing up. So we'd be like, oh, can't wait to go to grandma's because they have Nickelodeon and they got Disney Channel and all that stuff and food. Yeah, grandma. But she had these 9 dogs, right? And these 9 dogs, 7 of them were great. And then 2 of them would try and bite me all the time. But what was so funny is as a little kid, I was that kid that was like, you want to bite me again? Okay, let's try this. And I was going to come back and I'm like, you're not going to bite me this time. And I would get snapped at and bit and tagged. And my grandma would just let it happen.
Right.
It's like, he's not learning his lesson.
Yeah. And it's so, but it was, I guess the point is there's these people who naturally assert themselves. They coexist with the dog. They don't necessarily, feel bad for the dog as a being so small, but if I'm going to control you, if I'm going to take care of you, I'm going to have these natural boundaries. Right. And so, I always use those people as examples. And a very common example is we look at homeless people, right? Yeah. Like homeless people with their dogs, for the most part, 98% of them, the dogs are amazingly trained, right?
They're just calm, they just lay there, right?
Living an awesome life for the most part. Like, some of them, obviously, if the owner's addict, all those things, but the dog does not give a shit that it is not in a nice bed in a home. Right. It just knows that it's with its human, and they walk a lot.
They walk a lot. They got a structure. And
in the dog's world, usually their needs are met, so the dog has no idea. Yeah. I think for dog psychology, I think it's always making sure are you instinctually fulfilling the dog? Like, are you fulfilling the dog, as an instinctual thing? It's not fulfilling, like couch cuddles are great. I'm not saying affection is not necessary or warranted, but like, let's actually talk about what affection is in the dog world before we humanize it.
Right.